Hey guys, tonight we begin with something a little darker. A time of prehistoric terror, evolutionary stagnation and perpetual hide-and-seek. We're diving into what life would really be like if dinosaurs never went extinct. Forget the romantic notion of humans riding triceratops or befriending gentle giants. The truth? You probably wouldn't live past your 20th birthday. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from tonight and whether you think humanity would have ever developed civilization in a world ruled by raptors. Now, dim the lights, settle into your favorite sleeping position, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations! You've just woken up in the year 50,000 BC, the good news. You're still alive, the bad news. That's actually quite surprising. The first thing you notice isn't the pale dawn light filtering through the cave entrance, or the musty smell of damp stone and animal hides. It's the silence. In your world, silence means danger. It means something large and hungry has moved into the area, and every creature with half a brain has gone perfectly still, hoping not to be noticed. You lie motionless on your bed of moss and fur, listening with the intensity your ancestors never needed to develop. Your hearing is remarkable by the standards of the humans from our timeline. Evolution has been kind to your auditory system, brutal to almost everything else. You can distinguish between the footfall of a Compsognathus, which sounds like rain on leaves, and the deliberate pad of a Deinonychus, which sounds like death approaching on velvet paws. The silence stretches on. This could mean the danger has passed, or it could mean it's getting closer. In your world, optimism is a luxury that gets you eaten. Your tribe of 23 souls has been living in this particular cave system for 6 days now. That's practically a permanent settlement by your standards. Most camps last 3 days at most before something finds you, forces you to move, or forces you to become something's breakfast. The cave overlooks a small valley where herbivorous dinosaurs come to drink from a stream. It should be perfect hunting grounds, but perfect for whom is always the question. You roll silently to your stomach and inch toward the cave mouth, moving with a fluid grace that would impress any modern dancer. Your body is lean, wiry, built for running and hiding rather than fighting. Your muscles are developed for endurance, not strength. There's no point in being strong enough to wrestle a velociraptor when you should be fast enough to avoid one entirely. The tribe's scout Kale is already positioned at the cave entrance. He's 31 years old, practically ancient by your standards, and he's survived this long by being paranoid to a degree that would require therapy in our world. His eyes constantly dart between the sky, where pteranodons might be circling, and the ground where tracks might tell stories of what passed in the night. Kyle raises his hand slightly, a gesture that means movement detected. Everyone in the cave freezes. Even the youngest children, barely old enough to walk, know that any sound could mean death for the entire group. You've all heard the stories of tribes that were wiped out because a baby cried at the wrong moment. You strain your eyes, following Kyle's gaze toward the valley floor. There, picking their way delicately toward the stream, is a small herd of Parasaurolophus. They're beautiful creatures, with their distinctive hollow crests that produce haunting trumpet calls. In our timeline, children might have pointed and laughed with delight at such magnificent animals. Here, your first thought is whether they're being hunted, and whether whatever is hunting them knows about your cave. The Parasaurolophus move nervously, their heads constantly swiveling, their trumpet calls reduced to anxious whispers. They know something you don't, and in your world, ignorance isn't bliss. It's a death sentence. Kale makes another gesture, this one meaning prepare to move. The entire tribe begins the silent dance of breaking camp. Every movement is practiced, efficient, quiet as falling snow. Sleeping furs are rolled, tools are gathered, and the carefully maintained fire is quickly smothered with dirt. The fire represents hours of work and precious resources, but it also represents light and smoke that can be seen from miles away. In your world, comfort is always temporary. Your mother, Nera, approaches with your traveling pack. At 42, she's one of the oldest members of the tribe, a living repository of survival knowledge that took decades to accumulate. Her hair is prematurely grey, her face lined with stress and constant vigilance, but her eyes are sharp as flint. She survived this long by trusting nothing, questioning everything, and never, ever relaxing. She presses the pack into your hands along with your spear, a beautifully crafted weapon with a fire-hardened point and strips of sinew for grip. The spear isn't really for fighting dinosaurs, it's for hunting small game and, if absolutely necessary, for making the kind of wounds that might slow down a predator long enough for you to escape. Fighting a dinosaur is suicide, running from one is just barely survivable. The tribe moves out in single file, with Kyle leading and the best trackers bringing up the rear. You're positioned in the middle, surrounded by the young and the elderly. It's the safest spot, but safety is relative when you're living in a world that's constantly trying to kill you. The path leads through dense forest, where massive ferns create a canopy of green shadows. The trees are different here too, larger and more primitive than anything in our timeline. Cycads and conifers dominate the landscape, creating an alien forest that would look like something from a fantasy novel to modern eyes. But to you it's just home. Dangerous, beautiful, deadly home. Every step is calculated. You've learned to move like the wind through grass, to step only on stones or packed earth that won't leave tracks, to avoid breaking even the smallest twig. Your clothing is made from supple leather and plant fibers, designed to move silently and blend with the environment. Bright colors don't exist in your wardrobe. Everything is brown, green, or gray. The tribe pauses frequently, listening, watching, smelling the air for signs of danger. Your sense of smell is remarkably developed. You can distinguish between the musky scent of herbivorous dinosaurs and the sharp, metallic smell that warns of carnivores. You can smell water from miles away, detect the smoke from other human fires, and recognize the particular odor that means something has died recently. As you walk, your mind processes a constant stream of information that would overwhelm someone from our timeline. The angle of broken ferns that indicates something large passed this way. The pattern of bird calls that suggests aerial predators in the area. The subtle changes in insect noise that warn of approaching danger. You're living in a state of hyper-awareness that would be exhausting if it weren't literally a matter of life and death. The tribe moves for hours, covering ground with the steady persistence of people who know that standing still means dying. Your feet are tough as leather, hardened by years of walking on every conceivable surface. You've never worn shoes because they make noise and leave distinct tracks. Your soles are so thick and calloused that you can walk on sharp stones without flinching. Midday brings a brief rest in a grove of massive tree ferns. The canopy is thick enough to hide you from flying predators, and the grove is positioned on high ground, where you can see approaching danger from multiple directions. The tribe spreads out in a defensive circle, each person responsible for watching a specific section of the perimeter. This is when you eat, if you're lucky enough to have food. Today's meal consists of nuts, berries, and strips of dried meat from a small mammal that was caught 3 days ago. The portions are small, carefully rationed to make the food last as long as possible. Hunting is dangerous and unpredictable, so every calorie is precious. You chew slowly, savoring flavors that would seem bland to modern tastes, but represent survival to you. Salt is almost unknown. Sugar comes only from fruit when it's in season. Your diet is lean, nutritious, and utterly monotonous. But it keeps you alive, keeps you light on your feet, keeps you capable of running when running is the only option. While you eat, the tribal elders quietly discuss the route ahead. They speak in whispers, using a combination of words and hand signs that would be incomprehensible to outsiders. The language has evolved to be as quiet as possible, with soft consonants and minimal vowel sounds. Shouting doesn't exist. Loud talking is a luxury for people who don't have to worry about being overheard by creatures with excellent hearing and a taste for human flesh. The discussion centers on whether to follow the river valley, which offers easier walking and access to water, but also attracts predators, or to take the ridge route, which is harder but potentially safer. In your world, every decision is a calculated risk. There are no safe choices, only choices that are slightly less likely to get everyone killed. The decision is made to take the ridge route. It will add 2 days to the journey, but recent signs suggest that a pack of Deinonychus has been hunting in the valley. Deinonychus are particularly dangerous because they're smart enough to set ambushes and patient enough to wait for the perfect moment to strike. They're also fast enough to catch humans in open ground and strong enough to kill quickly. The afternoon march is grueling. The ridge path winds through rocky terrain where loose stones can shift underfoot and send you tumbling into ravines. but it also offers commanding views of the surrounding landscape, allowing the scouts to spot danger from miles away. In the distance, you can see a herd of massive Brontosaurus moving like living mountains across the plains. They're magnificent and terrifying, creatures so large they seem to bend reality around them. Your people have legends about the Brontosaurus, stories passed down through generations, about the early days when humans first learned to avoid the giants. The legends speak of entire tribes being accidentally crushed when they camped too close to Brontosaurus migration routes. The great herbivores don't mean any harm, but when something weighs 40 tons, intentions matter less than physics. The chosen shelter is a narrow canyon with steep walls and only one entrance. It's defensible, hidden, and far from any water source that might attract thirsty dinosaurs. The tribe sets up camp with the efficiency of people who've done this thousands of times. Guards are posted, the fire is built in a carefully concealed pit, and sleeping areas are arranged to allow for quick evacuation if necessary. Dinner is another small meal of forage food and precious dried meat. The fire provides warmth and light, but it's kept as small as possible and will be extinguished completely before full darkness falls. Light attracts attention, and attention from dinosaurs is something your people simply can't afford. As you settle down for the night, wrapped in furs and listening to the distant sounds of the prehistoric world, you reflect on what passes for a normal day in your life. You've traveled 15 miles, avoided several potential predator encounters, found enough food to survive another day and located secure shelter. By the standards of your world, it's been a remarkably successful day. But success is measured differently when you're living as prey in a world designed for predators. Success means still being alive when the sun sets. Success means your tribe hasn't lost anyone to hunger, disease, or teeth. Success means you get to try again tomorrow. The sounds of night begin to fill the canyon. In the distance, you can hear the low rumbling calls of massive herbivores settling down for the night. Closer, there's the rustle of small creatures moving through the underbrush, and occasionally the sharp crack of a branch that suggests something large is moving through the forest. Your people sleep in shifts, with guards always watching and listening. Even in sleep, you remain partially alert, ready to wake instantly at the first sign of danger. Your dreams are filled with running, hiding, and the constant fear that something with claws and teeth is getting closer. This is your normal life. This is what every day looks like when humans never became the dominant species, when intelligence and tool use are just barely enough to keep you alive in a world ruled by creatures that are bigger, stronger, and often just as smart as you are. Tomorrow will bring more of the same. Walking, hiding, searching for food, avoiding death. It's a life without art, without philosophy, without the luxury of contemplating anything beyond immediate survival. Its existence reduced to its most basic elements, where every moment is earned and nothing is guaranteed. But as you finally drift off to sleep, surrounded by your tribe and protected by layers of caution built up over generations, there's a strange kind of peace in the simplicity of it all. Your problems are immediate and concrete. Your goals are clear and achievable. Survive today. Survive tomorrow. Keep the tribe alive for one more day. It's a hard life, perhaps the hardest life imaginable, but it's also undeniably real. Every moment matters because every moment could be your last. Every breath is precious because you've earned it by being smarter, faster, and more careful than the countless predators that would love to make you their next meal. This is what humanity looks like when it never gets the chance to dream of anything bigger than survival. This is what we might have been if an asteroid had missed its appointment with Earth 65 million years ago. This is your life in the age of dinosaurs, where being human means being hunted and staying alive means never, ever letting your guard down. The night passes with the kind of uneasy peace that passes for tranquility in your world. You wake periodically to the sound of your own heartbeat, to distant roars that could mean anything, to the soft footsteps of guards changing shifts. Each awakening brings a moment of terror until you remember where you are and confirm that immediate danger isn't present. Your dreams, when they come, are filled with images that would seem like nightmares to people from our timeline, but represent everyday reality to you. You dream of running through dense forest while something crashes through the undergrowth behind you. You dream of hiding in small spaces while massive feet shake the ground overhead. You dream of the faces of tribe members who didn't survive previous encounters with predators. But you also dream of things that don't exist in your waking world. You dream of places where humans can walk freely without fear, where children can play without supervision, where food is abundant and shelter is permanent. These dreams feel like memories of a life you've never lived, echoes of possibilities that evolution never allowed to develop. When dawn finally arrives, bringing pale light and the promise of another day's survival, you feel the familiar mixture of relief and dread that characterizes every morning in your world. Relief that you've survived another night, dread at the thought of the dangers that await in the daylight hours ahead. The tribal routine begins before full sunrise, with scouts checking the perimeter for signs that predators discovered your camp during the night. They examine the ground for tracks, sniff the air for scents that don't belong, and listen for the subtle changes in morning bird songs that might indicate the presence of dangerous creatures. Your own morning routine is simple but essential. You check your equipment for damage, or wear that could prove fatal in an emergency. You examine your body for injuries or signs of illness that could slow you down when speed might mean survival. You eat whatever food is available, knowing that your next meal is never guaranteed. The tribal elders gather to discuss the day's route, speaking in the whispered tones that characterize all human communication in your world. The debate centers on whether to continue along the ridge or descend into the valley, where water is more abundant, but predators are more common. Recent intelligence from the scouts suggests that something has changed in the local predator patterns. The Deinonychus pack that was hunting in the valley appears to have moved on, but their departure might mean that something even more dangerous has claimed the territory. In your world, predators don't abandon good hunting grounds unless they're forced out by superior competition. The decision is made to send a small scouting party ahead to assess the situation, before committing the entire tribe to a potentially dangerous route. You volunteer for the scouting mission, knowing that your youth and speed make you well suited for the task, despite the enormous risks involved. The scouting party consists of 3 individuals, yourself, Kale, and another experienced tracker named Jorik. You'll travel light and fast, covering ground that would take the main tribe hours to traverse, gathering intelligence that could mean the difference between safe passage and disaster. The descent from the ridge camp requires extreme caution, as loose rocks and steep slopes create hazards that could injure scouts or create noise that attracts predators. Each step must be planned and executed with precision, making the journey slow despite the need for speed. Halfway down the ridge, the scouting party encounters their first significant discovery. Fresh tracks in a muddy stream bed tell a story that makes your blood run cold. A massive predator, possibly a Tyrannosaurus rex, has passed through the area within the last few hours. The tracks are so recent that water is still seeping into the impressions left by the creature's enormous feet. But more disturbing than the presence of a T-Rex is the evidence of what it was doing. The tracks show a hunting pattern, with the creature moving deliberately rather than simply passing through. Something in this valley has attracted the attention of one of the most dangerous predators that ever existed. Kyle studies the tracks with the intensity of a scholar reading ancient texts. The depth and spacing of the impressions suggest an adult male T-Rex, probably weighing 8 tons and standing 20 feet tall. Its stride indicates confident movement rather than cautious exploration, which means it's familiar with this territory and comfortable hunting here. The scouting party faces a critical decision. They can return immediately to warn the tribe, ensuring everyone's safety but leaving important questions unanswered. Or they can continue the reconnaissance mission, gathering information that might be crucial for the tribe's long-term survival, but risking their own lives in the process. The decision is made to continue, but with modified tactics that acknowledge the extreme danger. The party will move in single file, with maximum spacing between individuals to prevent a single attack from claiming multiple casualties. They'll avoid all open ground, stick to heavy cover, and retreat at the first sign of the T-Rex's presence. The valley floor reveals a landscape that's both beautiful and terrifying. Lush vegetation provides excellent cover for human-sized creatures, but also conceals predators until they're close enough to strike. A clear stream offers fresh water, but also creates open ground that must be crossed quickly and quietly. Most ominously, the valley shows signs of recent carnage. Scattered bones indicate that something large was killed and consumed here recently. The remains are too scattered and degraded to identify the victim, but the scale of the destruction suggests either a massive herbivore or multiple smaller prey items. Jorik discovers additional evidence that adds disturbing details to the picture. Claw marks on trees show where the T-Rex sharpened its weapons, a behavior that indicates extended presence in the area rather than a brief hunting expedition. This creature isn't just passing through, it's actively patrolling this territory. The scouting party spends several hours gathering intelligence while remaining constantly alert for signs of the predator's return. They map safe routes through the valley, identify potential hiding spots, and locate resources that the tribe might need if forced to travel through this dangerous area. But their reconnaissance also reveals something that changes their understanding of the local situation entirely. Hidden in a grove of dense vegetation, they discover evidence of recent human presence. Fire rings, tool marks, and food preparation areas indicate that another tribe has been using this valley as a campsite. The implications are staggering. If another human group is successfully operating in T-Rex territory, they either possess survival techniques unknown to your tribe, or they've developed some form of accommodation with the massive predator. Either possibility represents knowledge that could revolutionize your people's approach to survival. However, the evidence also suggests that the other tribe's presence ended abruptly. Personal belongings lie scattered around the campsite, and there are signs of hasty departure that indicate the group left under emergency conditions. Whatever happened here, it wasn't a planned relocation. The scouting party gathers examples of the abandoned tools and equipment, hoping to learn new techniques from the artifacts. Some of the implements are unlike anything your tribe has ever created, showing sophisticated approaches to tasks like food preparation, shelter construction, and weapon maintenance. Most intriguing is a series of symbols carved into trees around the campsite. The markings appear to be some form of communication system, possibly messages left for other members of the tribe or warnings about local dangers. Your people have never developed writing, making these symbols both fascinating and incomprehensible. As afternoon approaches, the scouting party prepares to return to the main camp with their intelligence. They've gathered crucial information about predator activity, identified potential resources and dangers, and discovered evidence of other human groups in the area. But their mission takes a dramatic turn when Kale detects sounds that indicate the T-Rex is returning to the valley. The distant crash of vegetation being displaced by something enormous gives the scouts barely enough warning to find concealment before the predator appears. Your first sight of a living Tyrannosaurus Rex is the experience that sears itself into memory with the intensity of lightning. The creature is even larger than you imagined, a walking mountain of muscle and teeth that moves with surprising grace for something so massive. Its head alone is larger than your entire body, equipped with jaws that could crush a human being without the predator even noticing. But what strikes you most powerfully isn't the T-Rex's size or strength. It's the intelligence visible in its eyes as it surveys the valley floor. This isn't a mindless killing machine operating on instinct alone. This is a thinking predator, capable of planning, learning, and adapting its hunting strategies based on experience. The T-Rex moves through the valley with the confidence of a creature that has never encountered serious opposition. It pauses occasionally to sniff the air, and you realize with growing horror that it's detected the human scent left by both your scouting party and the previous tribe that camped here. The predator begins a systematic search of the area, moving with deliberate purpose toward the locations where human activity was most concentrated. Its behavior demonstrates familiarity with human scent and suggests experience hunting your species. This T-Rex has killed humans before and knows where to look for them. The scouting party remains frozen in concealment, hardly daring to breathe while the massive predator searches the area around their hiding spot. You're close enough to see the texture of its skin, to hear the sound of its breathing, to smell the scent of previous kills that clings to its massive form. The T-Rex pauses directly in front of your hiding place, its huge head tilting as it investigates a scent trail that might lead to your discovery. For several terrifying minutes, you're certain that death is approaching with the inevitability of nightfall. Your entire life seems to condense into this single moment of ultimate vulnerability. But the predator eventually moves on. apparently satisfied that the human scent is old and that no immediate prey is available. It continues its patrol of the valley, giving the scouting party a chance to escape while its attention is focused elsewhere. The retreat from the valley requires every survival skill the scouts have developed over years of living as prey. You move like shadows, placing each step with infinite care, using every scrap of cover to remain invisible to the hunting predator. The journey that took hours during the approach now takes half that time, driven by the desperate need to escape before the T-Rex completes its patrol and returns. The ascent back to the ridge camp is exhausting but exhilarating, powered by the relief of having survived an encounter that should have been fatal. Each step up the rocky slope takes you further from immediate danger and closer to the relative safety of the tribal campsite. When the scouting party finally reaches the main camp, their report creates immediate debate among the tribal elders. The intelligence they've gathered is invaluable, but it also presents the tribe with choices that could determine their long-term survival prospects. The valley offers resources that the tribe needs, including water, food sources, and potentially valuable knowledge from the abandoned campsite. But it's also patrolled by a predator so dangerous that even approaching the area represents an enormous risk to everyone involved. Alternative routes would avoid the T-Rex entirely, but would add days to the tribe's journey and force them through territory that might present different but equally serious dangers. In your world, safe choices don't exist, only trade-offs between different types of potentially fatal risks. The tribal council debates through the evening, weighing options that range from bad to catastrophic. They could attempt to wait until the T-Rex moves on to other hunting grounds, but there's no guarantee that will happen anytime soon. They could try to find ways around the valley, but alternative routes might be even more dangerous, or might not exist at all. As night falls, and the tribe prepares for another session of vigilant sleep, you reflect on the day's discoveries and their implications for your people's future. The encounter with the T-Rex has demonstrated just how precarious human existence remains in this world, but it's also revealed possibilities that didn't exist before. The evidence of other human tribes suggests that your people aren't alone in their struggle for survival. Somewhere out there, other groups are developing new techniques, exploring new territories, and perhaps finding solutions to problems that have seemed insurmountable. The sophisticated tools and symbols discovered at the abandoned campsite represent knowledge that could transform your tribe's capabilities if it can be understood and replicated. Even simple improvements in equipment or technique could mean the difference between survival and extinction in future encounters with predators. Most importantly, the successful completion of the scouting mission has demonstrated that even the most dangerous reconnaissance tasks can be accomplished with proper planning, execution, and a substantial amount of luck. Your people aren't helpless victims. They're capable of gathering intelligence and making informed decisions about their survival strategies. As you settle down for another night of interrupted sleep and constant vigilance, you feel a complex mixture of emotions that captures the essential experience of being human in a world ruled by dinosaurs. Fear dominates everything else, but it's accompanied by pride in your accomplishments, hope for future discoveries, and determination to keep fighting against impossible odds. Tomorrow will bring new challenges as the tribe decides how to respond to the intelligence gathered today. The decisions made in the next few days could determine whether your people find new paths to survival or whether they become the next scattered bones discovered by future scouting parties. This is what progress looks like when you're living as prey in a world designed for predators. Every advance is earned through enormous risk. Every discovery comes at the cost of exposing yourself to mortal danger, and every small victory must be weighed against the possibility of catastrophic failure. But it's also what hope looks like when the odds seem impossible and the future appears predetermined. As long as humans continue to think, explore, and adapt, as long as they're willing to take calculated risks in pursuit of knowledge that might improve their chances, extinction isn't inevitable. Your world may be ruled by creatures that evolution specifically designed to kill efficiently, but it's also inhabited by thinking beings who refuse to accept defeat. That combination creates possibilities that neither pure predation nor pure intelligence could achieve alone. The morning of the third day brings a discovery that transforms the tribe's understanding of their situation and opens possibilities that seemed impossible just hours before. During the night, while guards maintained their vigilant watch, a lone human figure approached the camp using techniques so sophisticated that even experienced sentries nearly missed detecting the arrival. The stranger is a woman of perhaps 30 years, an age that represents remarkable survival achievement in your world. But what's most striking about her isn't her age or her obvious competence. It's her equipment and general condition. Her clothing is better made than anything your tribe possesses. Her weapons show craftsmanship that suggests access to resources and time unavailable to nomadic groups. And her physical condition indicates a level of nutrition that your people rarely achieve. Most remarkably, she shows none of the constant fear and hypervigilance that characterizes every member of your tribe. She moves with confidence, speaks in normal tones rather than whispers, and displays an overall demeanor that suggests she doesn't consider herself to be prey. In your world, such confidence either indicates stupidity or knowledge that your people don't possess. Her name is Vera, and she brings news that challenges everything your tribe believes about human survival possibilities in the age of dinosaurs. She's a representative of a human settlement that exists in a hidden valley deeper in the mountains, a community of nearly 200 individuals who have achieved something unprecedented: permanent habitation in dinosaur territory. The Hidden Valley, according to Vera, has been continuously occupied by humans for over 50 years. The settlement includes constructed buildings, cultivated food sources, and defensive works capable of keeping out most predator species. More importantly, the community has developed technologies and techniques that allow them to coexist with dinosaurs rather than simply hiding from them. The implications of Vera's news are staggering. Everything your tribe has been taught about human limitations in a dinosaur-dominated world might be wrong. The nomadic lifestyle that seemed like the only viable survival strategy might actually represent a primitive approach that more advanced communities have already transcended. But Vera's presence also raises immediate practical questions. She's obviously been tracking your tribe for some time, which means human groups can detect and follow each other in ways that your people didn't realize were possible. Her ability to approach your camp undetected suggests surveillance techniques that could revolutionize tribal security. More concerning is the question of why she's made contact now. In your world, strangers typically represent either opportunity or threat, and distinguishing between them can be a matter of life or death for everyone involved. Vera's motives for revealing herself in her community might be benevolent, but they could also be predatory. The Tribal Council convenes immediately to evaluate this unprecedented situation. Never before has your tribe encountered evidence of human communities more advanced than nomadic groups. The protocols for dealing with such contact don't exist, leaving the elders to improvise responses to circumstances they never imagined facing. Vera requests permission to address the entire tribe, explaining that her community's survival strategy requires periodic contact with nomadic groups for purposes of trade, information exchange, and population management. The Hidden Valley's resources are abundant but finite, making interaction with outside groups essential for long-term sustainability. Her proposal is simple but radical. Your tribe can journey to the Hidden Valley for evaluation as potential residents. If accepted by the community's governing council, tribal members could join the settlement and contribute to its continued development. If rejected, they would receive supplies and information that might improve their chances of nomadic survival. The proposal offers everything your tribe has ever dreamed of: safety, permanence, resources, and the possibility of a future that extends beyond day-to-day survival. But it also requires abandoning everything familiar, trusting strangers with your lives, and adapting to social structures that nomadic experience hasn't prepared you to handle. The debate that follows reveals deep divisions within your tribe. Younger members, including yourself, are drawn to the possibilities that settlement life might offer. The chance to develop skills beyond basic survival, to participate in a larger human community, and to help build something lasting appeals to aspirations that nomadic life has never allowed to flourish. Older tribal members are more cautious, understanding that the skills and instincts that have kept your people alive might be useless or even counterproductive in a settled environment. They've survived by being self-reliant, suspicious of strangers, and ready to abandon everything at a moment's notice. Settlement life would require trust, cooperation, and submission to group decisions made by people they don't know. The most difficult aspect of the decision involves the children and elderly members of your tribe. Settlement life might offer them opportunities and security impossible in nomadic conditions, but the journey to reach the hidden valley would expose them to dangers that could prove fatal before any benefits are realized. Vera provides additional information designed to help the tribe make an informed decision. The journey to the hidden valley typically takes 6 days through territory controlled by various predator species. The route requires crossing areas where massive herbivore herds attract corresponding concentrations of carnivorous dinosaurs. Most critically, the trip must be completed before seasonal migrations create conditions that make travel virtually impossible. The Hidden Valley's admission process involves evaluation of each potential resident's health, skills, and psychological suitability for community life. Not everyone who makes the journey successfully is accepted for permanent residence. Those rejected receive supplies and assistance but must return to nomadic life or seek alternatives elsewhere. Even acceptance comes with conditions. New residents must adapt to community rules, contribute to collective survival efforts, and subordinate individual preferences to group decisions. The social structure includes hierarchies, specializations, and political processes that might be difficult for nomadic people to understand or accept. Despite these challenges, Vera's description of valley life creates images that seem almost fantastical to nomadic minds. Children who grow up without constant fear. Elderly people who live to advanced ages and die of natural causes. Adults who develop specialized skills and create objects of beauty as well as utility. Communities that accumulate knowledge across generations rather than losing it when individuals die. The tribal council debates through most of the day while maintaining security protocols that acknowledge the possibility that Vera's presence might have attracted predator attention. Guards watch for signs of dinosaur activity, while elders struggle with the most important decision in the tribe's memory. By late afternoon, a tentative consensus emerges. The tribe will accept Vera's invitation and attempt the journey to the Hidden Valley, but they'll maintain their nomadic equipment and mindset as backup strategies. If the valley proves unsuitable or unwelcoming, if the journey becomes too dangerous, or if circumstances change in unexpected ways, they'll retain the option of returning to familiar survival strategies. Vera agrees to serve as guide for the journey, but she establishes conditions that illustrate the seriousness of the undertaking. The route passes through some of the most dangerous territory in the region, including areas where pack-hunting predators coordinate their attacks and zones where territorial disputes between large carnivores create additional hazards for any creatures unlucky enough to be caught in the conflict. The timeline is equally challenging. The journey must begin immediately and proceed without delays if the group hopes to reach the valley before seasonal changes make travel impossible. Weather patterns, migration schedules, and predator behavior all create windows of opportunity that close quickly and don't reopen for months. Most critically, the expanded group will be larger and more visible than your tribe has ever been. Vera's presence doubles the number of adults, changes the group's scent signature, and alters movement patterns in ways that might attract attention from predators who have learned to avoid smaller human groups. As evening approaches and the tribe prepares for what might be their last night as an independent nomadic group, you participate in rituals that acknowledge the magnitude of the changes ahead. Tools are blessed, weapons are sharpened to perfection, and personal items are evaluated for their suitability for the journey ahead. The meal that evening is more elaborate than usual, using supplies that Vera contributes from her own provisions. The food includes flavors and textures that your tribe has never experienced, offering a preview of what settlement life might provide in terms of nutrition and variety. But the evening also includes farewells that acknowledge the possibility that not everyone will survive the journey ahead. In your world, every major undertaking involves the realistic chance of death, and honest recognition of that fact is essential for psychological preparation. Vera shares stories of the Hidden Valley that both inspire and intimidate. She describes buildings constructed to last for generations, fields that produce abundant food year after year, and workshops where craftspeople create tools and art that surpass anything nomadic communities could achieve. But she also describes the challenges that settlement life involves, Political conflicts that arise when people with different backgrounds and perspectives must cooperate closely. Resource allocation decisions that affect individual comfort and community survival. Social hierarchies that determine status, responsibilities, and opportunities for advancement. Most difficult for nomadic minds to grasp is the concept of permanent commitment to a specific location and community. Your tribe's survival has always depended on mobility, adaptability, and the ability to abandon compromised positions quickly. Settlement life requires the opposite. Staying put, investing in long-term projects and defending positions even when retreat might seem like the safer option. As you prepare for sleep on what might be your last night as a nomadic tribesperson, you feel emotions that have no names in your language. Excitement and terror blend together in ways that make rest almost impossible. Hope and fear compete for your attention, creating internal conflicts that mirror the external dangers of the journey ahead. Tomorrow will begin either the most important journey of your life or the sequence of events that leads to your death. The hidden valley represents possibilities that nomadic life could never achieve, but reaching it requires surviving challenges that might prove insurmountable. This is what choice looks like in a world where dinosaurs never went extinct and humans never became dominant. Every significant decision involves existential stakes. Every opportunity comes with mortal risks, and the future of your entire tribe might depend on the courage and wisdom of a few individuals willing to gamble everything for the chance of something better. The night passes fitfully, filled with dreams of places you've never seen and fears of creatures you encounter every day. When morning comes, it brings the beginning of a journey that will determine whether your people's future lies in continued nomadic survival or in joining a human community advanced enough to offer hope for species-wide advancement. Either way, by tomorrow evening, you'll be a different person than you are today. The journey ahead will test every survival skill you've developed, challenge every assumption you've accepted about human limitations, and force you to confront possibilities that seemed impossible just days ago. This is what transformation looks like when you're living as prey in a world designed for predators. It requires abandoning proven strategies, accepting enormous risks, and trusting strangers with your life and the lives of everyone you care about. But it also offers the only realistic hope for transcending the limitations that have defined human existence since your species first appeared in a world ruled by dinosaurs. The fourth day begins before dawn, with preparations that feel both familiar and completely foreign. Your tribe has broken camp thousands of times, but never before with the knowledge that they might never need to do so again. Every piece of equipment is evaluated, not just for immediate utility, but for its relevance to a completely different way of life. Vera demonstrates packing techniques developed by the Valley community that maximize carrying capacity while minimizing noise and visibility. Her methods are more sophisticated than anything your tribe has encountered, involving the use of specialized containers, weight distribution strategies, and organization systems that reflect generations of refinement. The route she proposes follows paths that would be invisible to anyone unfamiliar with the terrain. Hidden game trails, natural corridors between predator territories, and seasonal migration routes that won't be active for several more weeks. It's a testament to accumulated knowledge that goes far beyond what any single nomadic tribe could develop. The first major challenge comes within hours of leaving the camp. The path leads through a narrow canyon, where the walls are marked with claw scores that tell stories of past predator activity. Some of the marks are fresh enough to suggest recent use, while others are so old they've been worn smooth by decades of weather. Vera explains that the canyon serves as a natural highway for both prey and predator species, making it dangerous but also predictable. By understanding the patterns of creature movement through the area, experienced travelers can time their passage to avoid most encounters while still benefiting from the protection and concealment that the canyon walls provide. The technique requires patience and precision timing that nomadic groups rarely achieve. Instead of moving at their own pace, the travelers must synchronize their progress with natural rhythms that have nothing to do with human convenience. It's a lesson in humility that illustrates just how much your tribe still has to learn about survival in dinosaur territory. Midway through the canyon, the group encounters evidence of recent carnage that demonstrates why such careful timing is essential. Scattered bones and torn vegetation mark the site where something large was killed and consumed, probably within the last few days. The remains are too degraded to identify the victim, but the scale of destruction suggests either a massive herbivore or multiple smaller prey animals. More ominously, the kill site shows signs of scavenger activity that might still be ongoing. Smaller predators often linger around such locations for days or weeks, feeding on scraps and competing for resources that larger carnivores have abandoned. Disturbing active scavenger sites can trigger aggressive responses that put travelers at serious risk. Vera guides the group around the kill site, using routes that minimize exposure while maintaining progress toward their destination. Her knowledge of predator behavior and scavenger patterns allows her to make decisions that balance multiple risk factors simultaneously. It's a level of tactical sophistication that nomadic experience rarely develops. The afternoon brings the group to higher elevations, where the air grows thin and every step requires greater effort. But the climb also provides commanding views of the surrounding territory that reveal both opportunities and threats invisible from ground level. In the distance, you can see a herd of triceratops moving across the plains like a slow-moving storm. There are hundreds of them, possibly thousands, representing one of the most spectacular wildlife displays that Earth has ever produced. Their three-horned heads and massive frilled necks create a profile that's both beautiful and intimidating. But Vera's reaction to the distant herd is one of concern rather than wonder. The Triceratops migration is beginning earlier than expected, which means the timeline for reaching the hidden valley has just become more critical. When the full migration gets underway, it will attract every major predator in the region, creating a concentration of dangerous creatures that no human group could survive. The group increases their pace, driven by the approaching deadline that could mean the difference between safe arrival and catastrophic encounter with forces beyond human ability to influence. The Triceratops migration represents natural phenomena on a scale that makes human concerns seem insignificant. But it also creates opportunities and dangers that experienced survivors can exploit or avoid. Evening brings the group to a camping site that showcases the valley community's approach to temporary shelter. Hidden in a grove of massive conifers, the location has been prepared with amenities that seem luxurious by nomadic standards. Concealed fire pits, natural windbreaks, and escape routes that allow quick evacuation if necessary. Most impressive is the presence of a supply cache hidden beneath carefully arranged stones. The cache contains provisions specifically designed for travelers between nomadic territories and the hidden valley, including preserved foods, emergency tools, and medical supplies that could mean survival in crisis situations. The discovery of the cache illustrates something profound about the difference between nomadic survival and community-based strategies. Your tribe's approach to survival is entirely self-contained, relying on resources and knowledge that travel with the group. The valley community has created infrastructure that extends beyond their immediate settlement, establishing support networks that benefit travelers even when they're days away from the main community. The meal that evening includes the best food your tribe has consumed in recent memory. Preserved meats retain flavors that dried rations never achieve. Plant foods include varieties that don't grow in your traditional territory, and everything is prepared with techniques that transform basic nutrition into something approaching cuisine. As the group settles in for the night, Vera shares more detailed information about life in the hidden valley that helps prepare tribal members for what they might encounter. The community's social structure is more complex than anything nomadic groups develop, involving specialization of labor, resource allocation committees, and governance systems that balance individual needs against collective survival requirements. Most challenging for nomadic minds is the concept of permanent responsibility to a specific location and community. Your tribe's survival has always depended on mobility, adaptability, and the ability to abandon compromised situations quickly. Valley life requires the opposite approach, staying committed to specific places and projects, even when short-term retreat might seem safer. The economic system that has developed in the valley is equally foreign to nomadic experience. Instead of the resource sharing that characterizes tribal life, the valley operates on principles of specialization and exchange that allow individuals to develop expertise in specific areas while relying on others for goods and services they don't produce themselves. This specialization has enabled technological advances that nomadic communities could never achieve. Master craftspeople create tools and weapons that surpass anything your tribe possesses. Agricultural specialists grow food with yields that make foraging seem primitive. Builders construct shelters that provide security and comfort unimaginable in nomadic life. But specialization also creates vulnerabilities unknown in nomadic communities. A master metalworker might be helpless in wilderness survival situations that any nomadic tribal member could handle easily. Agricultural specialists might be unable to identify edible wild plants that could mean survival during food shortages. The conversation reveals another aspect of valley life that both attracts and concerns your tribal members. The community has developed cultural activities that exist purely for enjoyment rather than survival utility. Music, art, storytelling, and games provide entertainment and social bonding that nomadic life rarely permits. For people whose every waking moment has been focused on staying alive, the concept of leisure activities seems almost incomprehensible. The idea that humans might have time and energy for pursuits that don't directly contribute to survival suggests either remarkable efficiency in meeting basic needs or dangerous complacency about ongoing threats. As you prepare for sleep in what might be your last camp before reaching the valley, you reflect on the magnitude of the changes that successful integration would require. Everything from daily routines to fundamental attitudes about risk and safety would need to be modified to fit circumstances completely different from nomadic life. The Hidden Valley represents not just a different survival strategy, but a different way of being human. Instead of the constant vigilance and mobility that characterize nomadic existence, valley life apparently involves trust, permanence, and the luxury of planning for futures that extend beyond immediate survival needs. Whether your tribe can successfully make such a fundamental transition remains to be seen. The skills and instincts that have kept your people alive might prove incompatible with community life, or they might represent valuable additions to a settlement that needs diverse perspectives and abilities. Tomorrow will bring the final stages of the journey to the valley, including passage through territory that Vera describes as the most dangerous of the entire route. The challenges ahead will test every survival skill your tribe has developed, while exposing them to predator species they've never encountered and terrain features that could prove as deadly as any creature. This is what hope looks like when you're living as prey in a world designed for predators. It requires abandoning everything familiar, accepting risks that could prove fatal, and trusting strangers with decisions that could determine your entire future. But it also offers the only realistic possibility for transcending limitations that have defined human existence since your species appeared. The night passes with dreams of places you've never seen and possibilities you've never imagined. When morning comes, it will bring either the final approach to a new life or the beginning of circumstances that lead to disaster for everyone involved. Either way, the journey has already changed you in fundamental ways. You've seen evidence that human survival in dinosaur territory isn't limited to nomadic strategies, that cooperation can achieve things that individual tribes never could, and that the future might hold possibilities more remarkable than anything your people have dared to dream. The fifth day dawns with weather conditions that add complexity to an already challenging situation. A cold front has moved through the area during the night, bringing temperatures low enough to affect both human comfort and dinosaur behavior patterns. In your world, weather isn't just a matter of personal comfort. It's a survival factor that can mean the difference between life and death. Vera explains that cold weather affects different dinosaur species in different ways, creating both opportunities and dangers for human travelers. Some predators become less active in cold conditions, reducing the likelihood of encounters, but also making their behavior less predictable. Others respond to temperature changes by altering their hunting patterns in ways that could bring them into contact with human groups. The morning's route leads through terrain that becomes increasingly difficult as elevation increases and vegetation becomes sparser. Rocky slopes require careful navigation to avoid loose stones that could create noise or cause injuries. The thinner air at higher altitudes makes physical exertion more demanding, slowing progress at a time when maintaining schedule is critical. But the climb also provides increasingly spectacular views of the surrounding landscape that reveal the true scale of the natural forces at work in your world. The Triceratops migration has intensified overnight, with vast herds of the massive herbivores moving across the plains like brown rivers, flowing toward distant destinations. More concerning is the evidence of predator activity that the migration has attracted. In the distance, you can see the distinctive silhouettes of multiple Tyrannosaurus rex moving parallel to the herbivore herds, waiting for opportunities to select victims from the thousands of potential prey animals. Other large carnivores are also visible, creating a concentration of dangerous creatures, unlike anything your tribe has encountered. Vera's concern about the accelerated migration timeline proves justified as the group observes signs that predator activity is increasing throughout the region. Fresh tracks, scent markers, and territorial displays indicate that large carnivores are moving into positions where they can exploit the opportunities created by the massive herbivore herd. The situation creates a complex set of challenges for human travelers. The presence of so many large predators makes direct encounters more likely, but their focus on the Triceratops herds might also provide opportunities for humans to move through areas that would normally be too dangerous to approach. Vera modifies the planned route to take advantage of predator movement patterns while avoiding areas where territorial conflicts between large carnivores might create additional hazard. Her tactical thinking demonstrates the sophisticated understanding of dinosaur behavior that valley communities have developed through decades of observation and experience. The revised route requires crossing several areas of open ground where the group will be visible to aerial predators and vulnerable to attack from multiple directions. These crossings must be timed precisely and executed flawlessly, with contingency plans for every conceivable type of emergency. The first major crossing comes at midday, when the group must traverse a meadow nearly half a mile wide with minimal cover and no escape routes once they're committed to the crossing. Vera's planning involves detailed analysis of wind patterns, sunlight angles, and background terrain features that might affect visibility and detection probability. The crossing technique involves moving in single file with maximum spacing between individuals to prevent a single attack from claiming multiple casualties. Each person carries equipment designed for rapid abandonment if flight becomes necessary, and everyone understands the protocols for scattering if the group comes under attack. The actual crossing takes nearly an hour of careful movement across terrain that offers no concealment and little protection from aerial predators. Every step must be planned and executed with precision, making the journey exhausting, despite the relatively short distance involved. Halfway across the meadow, the group encounters a moment of pure terror when a shadow passes overhead that could indicate the presence of a pteranodon or other flying predator. Everyone freezes instantly, becoming as motionless as the scattered boulders that provide the only available concealment in the open ground. The shadow proves to be caused by clouds rather than predators, but the false alarm illustrates just how precarious the group's situation has become. Any actual predator encounter in such exposed terrain would likely result in casualties that the group couldn't afford and might not survive. The successful completion of the meadow crossing brings the group to forested terrain that provides better concealment, but also creates new challenges. Dense vegetation limits visibility and could hide predators until they're close enough to attack. Navigation becomes more difficult, and the group must rely entirely on Vera's knowledge of routes that might not be clearly marked or easily followed. The afternoon's march takes the group through increasingly wild territory, where signs of human activity become rare and then disappear entirely. This is the frontier zone between regions where nomadic tribes occasionally travel and the true wilderness, where only the most dangerous predators maintain territory. Evidence of predator activity becomes more concentrated as the group approaches areas where large carnivores establish their permanent hunting ground. Claw marks on trees, scent markers, and territorial displays indicate the presence of creatures that have never learned to avoid humans and might actually view your species as preferred prey. Most ominously, the group begins finding human remains that tell stories of previous travelers who didn't survive their journeys to or from the hidden valley. The bones are scattered and weathered, but they serve as sobering reminders that not everyone who attempts this route reaches their destination alive. Vera acknowledges the dangers while providing context that helps the group understand their situation more clearly. The hidden valley's isolation requires traversing territory that few humans ever enter, making the journey inherently dangerous, but also ensuring that the settlement remains concealed from both human and dinosaur threat. The trade-off between safety and accessibility means that reaching the valley requires accepting risks that might seem unacceptable under other circumstances. But those same risks are what make the valley's security possible, creating a barrier that protects the community from casual discovery, while allowing access to those determined enough to overcome the challenges. As evening approaches, the group reaches a camping site that represents their last stop before the final approach to the hidden valley. The location is more carefully concealed than any previous campsite, hidden in a natural depression surrounded by dense vegetation and positioned to take advantage of terrain features that provide multiple escape routes. The site also contains evidence of regular use by valley residents and their guests, including improved fire pits, constructed windbreaks, and supply caches that demonstrate ongoing maintenance and investment in infrastructure that supports travelers. But the site's defensive preparations also illustrate just how dangerous this final stretch of territory has become. Observation posts, early warning systems, and prepared fighting positions indicate that even experienced valley residents consider this area to require maximum security precautions. The evening meal includes the last of the special provisions that Vera brought from the valley, creating a sense of transition that acknowledges both the journey's near completion and the uncertainty that still lies ahead. Tomorrow will bring either successful arrival at the hidden valley or encounter with dangers that could prove fatal for everyone involved. Vera uses the evening to provide final preparations for what she describes as the most challenging portion of the entire journey. The approach to the hidden valley requires navigating terrain that's actively patrolled by predators who have learned to associate this area with opportunities for finding human prey. The defensive systems that protect the valley also create challenges for approaching travelers who must identify themselves correctly and approach using specific routes that don't trigger responses designed to repel hostile intruders. Getting the protocols wrong could result in being fired upon by valley defenders who can't afford to take chances with unknown visitors. Most critically, the final approach must be completed during daylight hours, when visibility allows proper identification, but also exposes travelers to predators who hunt visually. The timing requirements mean that any delays or complications during tomorrow's journey could force the group to attempt night approaches that dramatically increase the probability of disaster. As you settle down for what might be your last night as a nomadic tribesperson, you feel a complex mixture of emotions that defies easy description. Excitement about possibilities you've never imagined combines with terror about risks you might not survive. Hope for a better future conflicts with attachment to the familiar patterns that have kept you alive so far. Tomorrow will determine whether your tribe's gamble proves justified or whether the pursuit of safety and advancement leads to consequences more terrible than anything they faced in nomadic life. The hidden valley represents everything your people have ever dreamed of, but reaching it requires surviving challenges that might exceed human capability to overcome. This is what transformation looks like when you're living as prey in a world designed for predators. It demands abandoning proven survival strategies, accepting enormous risks, and trusting strangers with decisions that could determine your entire future. But it also offers the only realistic hope for transcending limitations that have defined human existence since your species first appeared. The night passes with dreams of places beyond imagination and fears of creatures you encounter every day. When morning comes, it will bring either the culmination of an impossible journey or the beginning of the final chapter in your tribe's story. Either way, the experience has already changed you in fundamental ways. You've seen evidence that human potential in dinosaur territory extends far beyond what nomadic life could achieve, that cooperation can accomplish things individual tribes never could, and that the future might hold possibilities more remarkable than anything your people have dared to dream. The sixth and final day of the journey begins before dawn, with preparations that acknowledge both the proximity of their destination and the magnitude of the challenges that remain. The hidden valley lies less than a day's travel away, but that final distance includes passage through the most dangerous territory the group has yet encountered. Vera's briefing reveals that the approach to the valley requires traversing a narrow mountain pass that serves as the only practical entrance to the hidden settlement. The pass is naturally defensible, which helps protect the valley from unwanted intrusion, but it also creates a choke point where travelers become vulnerable to predators who have learned to exploit the geography. The defensive systems established by valley residents include both passive barriers designed to discourage casual exploration and active measures that can be deployed against serious threats. Approaching travelers must identify themselves correctly and follow specific protocols to avoid triggering responses that could prove fatal even to legitimate visitors. More challenging than the valley's defenses are the natural predators who have learned to associate the pass with opportunities for finding human prey. Several species of pack-hunting carnivores maintain territories that overlap the approach routes, creating gauntlets that travelers must navigate while remaining vulnerable to coordinated attack. The morning's march begins with a climb through increasingly rugged terrain, where every step must be carefully planned to avoid loose rocks that could create noise or cause injury. The path winds through natural features that provide concealment while maintaining progress toward the distant path. But the route also requires crossing several areas where predator sign becomes increasingly concentrated. Fresh tracks, scent markers, and territorial displays indicate that large carnivores are actively patrolling this area, probably drawn by the knowledge that human travelers occasionally attempt passage through their territories. The first major challenge comes at mid-morning when the group encounters clear evidence that they're entering the hunting territory of a pack of Utah raptors. These massive dromaeosaurs represent perhaps the most dangerous predators that humans can encounter, combining size, speed, intelligence, and pack-hunting strategies that make them nearly impossible to evade once they've detected prey. Vera's response to the Utah raptor sign demonstrates the sophisticated tactical thinking that valley communities have developed through necessity. Instead of attempting to avoid the predators entirely, which would require lengthy detours that might not be possible given time constraints, she implements a strategy designed to reduce detection probability while maintaining progress toward their destination. The technique involves exploiting the pack's own hunting patterns against them. Utah raptor typically establish ambush positions along routes they expect prey to follow, then wait for victims to enter predetermined killing zones. By understanding these patterns, experienced travelers can sometimes identify and avoid the most dangerous areas while still making progress through predator territory. The implementation requires moving with even greater caution than usual, using terrain features to mask movement, while constantly monitoring for signs that the pack has detected their presence. Every decision about route selection must balance progress requirements against the probability of walking into prepared ambush positions. The heightened tension affects every member of the group as they navigate through territory where death could come from any direction at any moment. Your enhanced senses, developed through years of nomadic survival, work overtime to process information about wind direction, sound patterns, and visual cues that might provide early warning of approaching predators. But the Utah raptor encounter also reveals something remarkable about the transformation that this journey has created in your tribe's capabilities. Working with Vera has taught your people techniques and strategies that go far beyond basic nomadic survival skills. You're operating with tactical sophistication that seemed impossible just days ago. The successful passage through Utah raptor territory, accomplished without direct contact with the pack, represents a survival achievement that few nomadic groups could claim. It demonstrates that humans aren't helpless victims in dinosaur-dominated environments, but can be formidable opponents when they possess adequate knowledge and preparation. The afternoon brings the group to the final approach to the hidden valley, a narrow canyon that leads to the pass Vera has described as the settlement's main entrance. The canyon walls are marked with symbols that serve both as navigation aids for authorized visitors and warnings for potential intruders who might be considering unauthorized exploration. But the approach also reveals defensive preparations that illustrate just how seriously the valley community takes security concerns. Concealed observation posts allow defenders to monitor approaching travelers while remaining invisible themselves. Prepared obstacles can be deployed to block the canyon if hostile forces attempt to enter. Hidden weapon positions cover every approach route with overlapping fields of fire. Most impressive are the early warning systems that detect approaching travelers long before they become visible to valley defenders. These include techniques for monitoring ground vibrations, air currents, and even subtle changes in animal behavior patterns that might indicate human presence in the area. The group's approach triggers responses that demonstrate both the efficiency and sophistication of the valley's security arrangement. Defenders identify and evaluate the travelers while remaining concealed. Communication systems relay information about their approach to decision-makers within the valley, and defensive preparations are modified based on assessment of potential threat levels. Various protocols for gaining entry involve a complex series of signals and responses that ensure legitimate visitors can be distinguished from potential threats. The system has been refined through decades of use and has apparently never been successfully compromised by hostile intruders. The actual entrance to the hidden valley exceeds everything your nomadic experience could have prepared you to expect. The pass opens into a natural amphitheater surrounded by steep walls that would be nearly impossible for predators to scale. The valley floor shows evidence of extensive human modification, with terraced fields, constructed buildings, and engineering works that represent permanent civilization in dinosaur territory. Most remarkable is the obvious prosperity and security that characterizes every aspect of what you observe. Children play freely in open areas without adult supervision, their laughter echoing off the valley walls without fear of attracting predators. Elderly residents move slowly and openly, their advanced age representing survival achievements that seemed impossible in nomadic life. The settlement includes nearly 200 inhabitants living in constructed shelters that were obviously designed for permanent occupation. Buildings include features like windows, doors, and storage areas that assume occupants will remain in specific locations indefinitely. Workshops, communal areas, and specialized facilities demonstrate a level of social organization unknown to nomadic communities. But what strikes you most powerfully isn't the physical infrastructure or even the obvious prosperity. It's the behavior of the valley's inhabitants, who move with confidence and engage in activities that have nothing to do with immediate survival. People work on long-term projects, pursue individual interests, and participate in social interactions that exist purely for enjoyment rather than survival utility. The contrast with nomadic life is so stark that it seems almost supernatural. These people have created a pocket of genuine civilization in a world that seems designed to make such achievements impossible. They've proven that humans can do more than merely survive in dinosaur territory. They can actually thrive and develop their potential in ways that nomadic life never permits. Your tribal evaluation by the Valley's Governing Council proceeds throughout the afternoon, involving assessment of each member's health, skills, and psychological suitability for community life. The process is thorough but not unkind, designed to ensure that new residents can integrate successfully while protecting the community from individuals who might create problems. Most tribal members are found suitable for provisional acceptance, meaning they'll be allowed to remain in the valley while they learn community customs and demonstrate their ability to contribute to collective survival. A few individuals show signs of psychological patterns that might make adaptation difficult, but even they're offered opportunities for gradual integration with additional support. The evening brings your first communal meal as a valley resident, an experience that showcases the dramatic differences between nomadic and settled life. The food is abundant, varied, and prepared with techniques that create flavors and textures unknown to nomadic cooks. People eat leisurely, enjoying conversation and social interaction rather than consuming calories as quickly as possible before the next threat appears. Most striking is the complete absence of the fear that permeates every aspect of nomadic existence. People move confidently after dark, conversations include planning for months or years in the future, and children sleep soundly without guards maintaining vigilant watch throughout the night. But integration also reveals challenges that make adaptation difficult for former nomads. The valley's social structure includes hierarchies, specializations, and political processes that seem unnecessarily complex to people accustomed to consensus-based tribal decisions. Resource allocation involves committees and procedures that extend far beyond immediate survival. Most challenging is learning to suppress survival instincts that kept you alive in nomadic conditions, but interfere with settled life. Constant alertness becomes exhausting when maintained unnecessarily. Suspicion of strangers creates problems in a community that requires trust and cooperation. As you settle into your first real bed, surrounded by walls that will protect you through the night, you reflect on the magnitude of the changes occurring in your life. You're transitioning from existence focused entirely on day-to-day survival to life that offers security, education, and possibilities you never imagined. The Hidden Valley represents what humanity can achieve, even in a world where dinosaurs rule and humans remain vulnerable. Through cooperation, innovation, and accumulation of knowledge across generations, people have created genuine civilization that offers hope for the future of the species. But success in the valley will require abandoning much of what made you successful as a nomad. Skills, instincts, and social patterns that ensured survival in hostile territory must be replaced with approaches appropriate for settled life. Tomorrow will begin the long process of transformation from nomadic survivor to valley settler. You'll learn new skills, adopt new customs, and gradually become a different kind of human than you were when you woke up in dinosaur-dominated wilderness just 1 week ago. This is what hope looks like in a world where dinosaurs never went extinct and humans never became dominant. It requires tremendous risks, painful sacrifices, and courage to abandon proven survival strategies in pursuit of possibilities that might not work out. But it also offers something nomadic life could never provide: the chance to build something lasting, to accumulate knowledge that will benefit future generations, and to prove that intelligence and cooperation can triumph over size and strength, even when odds seem impossible. Your new life in the valley will be measured not in days survived, but in contributions made, knowledge gained, and progress toward a future where humans might eventually reclaim their position as the dominant species on Earth. It's a future that seemed impossible just 7 days ago, but now appears within reach for those brave enough to pursue. As consciousness fades and genuine sleep becomes possible for the first time in your life, you realize you've experienced something extraordinary: the transition from survival to civilization, from fear to hope, from nomadic desperation to settled possibility. This is what human potential looks like when it finally gets the chance to develop beyond basic survival. This is what we might have achieved even in a world ruled by dinosaurs, if we had been clever enough, brave enough, and persistent enough to never give up on the possibility of something better. In our timeline, we never faced the challenge of developing civilization while hiding from velociraptors. We never had to build cities strong enough to keep out tyrannosaurs or develop agriculture while avoiding herbivore stampedes. The asteroid that ended the age of dinosaurs gave humanity an unopposed world where we could develop without existential pressure, from creatures specifically designed to kill us. But perhaps that easier path cost us something important. Perhaps the humans in the valley, who earned every advance through enormous risk and sacrifice, understand cooperation, innovation, and perseverance in ways that we never will. Perhaps facing impossible odds and surviving anyway creates strength and wisdom that can't be developed in safer circumstances. Your life as a nomadic survivor was hard beyond anything people in our timeline could imagine. Every day brought threats that would paralyze modern humans with terror. Every decision involved life or death consequences. Every mistake could mean extinction for everyone you cared about. But that life also developed capabilities that modern humans have. Your senses are sharper, your reactions faster, your understanding of survival more complete than anything our comfortable world has produced. Your courage and determination have been tested in ways that reveal the full potential of human character. The valley represents a bridge between nomadic survival and technological advancement, a place where human potential can develop despite the continued presence of dinosaur predators. It's not the easy path our timeline followed, but it's a path that leads somewhere important. As you drift into sleep surrounded by safety and possibility, you realize that both timelines have produced remarkable achievements. Our world developed technology, science, and art that valley dwellers couldn't imagine. Their world developed cooperation, resilience, and courage that we might never. Perhaps the real lesson isn't about which timeline is better, but about recognizing the potential that humans possess, regardless of circumstances. Whether we're hiding from raptors or reaching for the stars, whether we're building walls to keep out tyrannosaurs or rockets to escape gravity, the essential human drive to survive, learn, and improve remains constant. Your journey from nomadic terror to valley security represents one version of human achievement in the face of impossible. Our journey from caves to cities represents another version of the same essential story. Both paths require courage, both demand sacrifice, and both prove that humans can overcome almost any obstacle if they're willing to work together and never surrender. In the end, whether dinosaurs went extinct or continued to rule, whether humans became dominant or remained vulnerable, the most important thing is that consciousness persists, that intelligence continues to grow, and that somewhere in the universe, thinking beings continue to ask questions, solve problems, and imagine better. Your story ends with the beginning of a new chapter, with the possibility that even in a world ruled by predators, intelligence and cooperation might eventually. It's a hopeful ending to a terrifying journey, a reminder that no matter how dark the circumstances, human potential remains unlimited. Sleep well in your valley sanctuary, knowing that you've survived the impossible and helped prove that humanity's future isn't determined by circumstances, but by the courage to keep trying despite any odds. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but also new possibilities for growth, learning, and the gradual transformation of the world through human determination and ingenuity. This is what we might have been. This is what we still could be. This is the story of human potential in any timeline, under any circumstances, facing any challenge that the universe might. And now, as your adventure in the age of dinosaurs comes to a peaceful, let that same spirit of resilience and hope carry you gently into your own dreams, where anything is possible and every challenge can be overcome with courage, wisdom, and the unshakable belief that tomorrow will be better than today.